Hello, I'm Peter and this is the Scottish Flute channel, the channel for all things traditional flute and whistle playing in Scotland. This has been another really busy weekend for me. It's the Aberdeen Flutefling event this weekend, and just before we head off to the final session of the weekend, I've managed to get Munro Gauld here with me. Welcome, Munro.
Thank you.
And for a bit of a chat. Munro has done is doing some fantastically interesting things, and we will get into some of that. So, Munro, welcome. Welcome to Aberdeenshire.
My family's all from Aberdeenshire originally. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If you go back to 2 generations.
Only 2 generations.
Yeah.
That's almost like now. Yeah. Okay, so for people who don't know who you are or what you do, you just want to give a brief explanation of what you're doing here?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm Scottish traditional flute player, yeah, and have been for 30 years or more. We're yeah, exploring how to play the Scottish music on a flute, which has been it's still a journey that I think quite a lot of people are on, trying to interpret Scottish music through flute playing. So yeah, that's what I don't really do that for a living, but that's certainly for I've been playing for that length of time, doing gigs and ceilidhs and so it's still a nice journey. It's,
yeah.
I've not arrived anywhere yet.
Well, the journey is the destination.
Yeah, just as well.
Okay, so you say 30 years, and what drew you to? Is that 30 years playing the flute, or 30 years playing traditional music, or both?
Yeah, 30 years playing the flute. Yeah, before that I played the whistle. I think I grew up in a wee glen in West Perthshire, and there wasn't really much music, traditional music around, apart from the annual Davy and Tommy's ceilidh in New Year. But yeah, we did have lots of traditional music. We used to have a lot of Scottish traditional music records that we played a lot. So, so Alex Crean, the whistler, would hear him, along with all the Gaelic singers like Alistair Gillis and Callum Kennedy, and and that kind of the dance band kind of music. So that was kind of what was on the turntable at home. And and going to school, it was all Scottish songs that there was no pop music. In primary school, nobody listened to pop music. We all on the bus they would sing.
That was something songs. Teenagers did.
Well,
late teenagers probably.
Not interested in any of that. So so that was my musical, because nobody in my family played. So but that was in the background, and there was a whistle kicking around when I was young. So I just picked up a whistle and would play along with the records and play along with Alex Green.
Oh right, okay. Yeah. Did you ever meet him?
No, I never met Alex.
Oh right, okay. Well, there's a move to try and do a little retrospective kind of mini festival for him. So if that comes up, I'll be sure to let you know. But Alec was a real character as well. But that's interesting because when I grew up there was that Scottish dance band tradition going on where there was an accordion, a drummer, and a keyboard player maybe, and that's what we were exposed to. I suppose with all the family weddings and things. That's where I came across it, but very very common at the time.
Yeah, and certainly in Perthshire that was lots of farmers and folks were farmers, and lots of farmers were musicians, especially in Perth and North Dakota. There's like Bill Powrie, and there's loads of dance bands come from and Bill Black and Ian Powrie, who's in Bill Black, and so that's there's a strong Perthshire tradition of the dance band. Obviously there's also a really strong other Perthshire traditions, that I've been exploring this last few while.
So obviously the gows.
Well, not necessarily a fiddle tradition either,
right?
Because Perthshire has got a huge Gaelic song tradition as well.
Ah, okay.
Which everybody thinks that the Gaelic songs, yeah, but there, right up to the end of the 19th century, certainly around where I live, and in fact where I grew up was Gaelic speaking in Balquhidder, and end of the 1800s. Yeah, I saw an advert advertising for a primary school teacher for Logie Raid, and said they had to be a Gaelic speaker because when the children arrived at the school, most of them couldn't speak English.
Wow.
They only spoke Gaelic.
In the 1800s, early 1800s?
No, early, like late 1800s.
Late 1800s?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the same time, the minister in Dunkeld had to be a Gaelic speaker. And that was, they had to be a Gaelic speaker because they had to conduct one service in Gaelic and one service in English. Right. That was the case right through the mid-1800s. Yeah. So and Perthshire has got this huge, Gaelic song tradition.
Wow. Okay.
Which is super rich. It's a very, very rich tradition, and fortunately, it was written down because by the time School of Scottish Studies started recording things, and after the Second World War, and the Gaelic tradition had diminished considerably. Yeah. So, Marjorie was Fraser Kennedy. She was from Perthshire.
Okay.
Yeah. And some of her songs, she uses Scottish Perthshire Gaelic melodies for the songs that she sang. So some of them are very familiar, but they're actually originally Perthshire
Gaelic songs. Yeah. Okay. Or Gaelic tunes. Yeah. Interesting.
And the Mingalay boat song is a Perthshire Gaelic melody. Ah. Perthshire Gaelic song originally.
Wow.
Yeah. Who knew?
You did. You did.
Well, I did.
So you had some music in the background being played at the home, but nobody else playing. What attracted you to start getting involved in, other than just having a whistle hanging around the house? What did you go further than that?
Well, that was all as far as I went, and then I was at university, and then I kind of heard wider Scottish trad and folk music and Silly Wizard. All the rage, and then and then like the later Capercaillie coming in, and then and so I was playing the whistle along to all those, but not really engaging with it particularly, just as something I did when in a quiet moment. So I'd never been playing with anybody else, and it was just a personal, just a purely personal, for fun, and that carried on right through university, and did loads of travelling and whatnot, and then I came back. And in Edinburgh in 1992, I moved to Edinburgh, and then 1991, I met up with folks who did play, and then they went, "Oh no, let's get together and play." And I was like, "Oh, this is great!" Fiddlers and guitars, and so that's when I moved to Edinburgh. I started getting more involved, and that's when did some gigs, and had fun and going down to the Keeley House and playing in the Keeley House in Edinburgh, playing tunes. And by that time I went, I'd like to learn the flute. So
okay, and just as a natural progression from the whistle.
And fortunately, George Robinson made flutes, and I went to see him, and he very kindly sold me a flute on hire purchase, or whatever the term is, and I played it off instalments of my graduate wage. So it was a very, very kind move on his part, and that's what allowed me to start playing flute.
For those who are not new to the channel, you will know that I've interviewed George already, and in fact I literally today just interviewed George, so you'll be seeing this in the future. He's actually sitting in the corner, so but he's that praise is well deserved, by the way.
Super deserved.
So that must take you up to kind of that's 30 years ago ish. You're starting the flute. I think the first time we were in the same room together, all probably didn't recognise each other, was 2001. You were at the Aberdeen event.
The Aberdeen flute thing. By that stage, gosh, I've been playing, and then I started teaching at the Adult Learning Project.
All right,
Scots
yeah,
Music
yeah.
Group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I joined a class of theirs and then ended up teaching. Yeah, in a year or two. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
I taught whistle and flute, and then mixed instruments as well. And I had a mixed instrument class. Anybody less suited to teaching mixed instruments and teaching it, I shudder to think, because I'm very musically knowledgeable in terms of and mixed instruments. Yeah, I have knowledge of accompanying instruments and all the other instruments that arrived, but we had a great time.
Yeah.
Because all of us in the room were like, well, what should we do today? I met people who are doing degrees in music, people who are music teachers, people who had huge amounts of experience. So we all just pooled our resources and had fun.
I think that's actually part of that whole ethos, because Scottish Culture and Traditions in Aberdeen was based on the model from the music group in Edinburgh and the Glasgow Fiddle Project as well. So, but a lot of that is it's not just the teacher teaching; it's getting that that sense of experience from others and instilling the enthusiasm for the music and the group nature of it. So yes, I know I can see that's not an unsuitable role.
Well, insofar as I was very happy not to put myself on a pedestal. And lots of people who were in that class are still, friends and play music with still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a great time.
The proof is in the pudding. They're still playing. That's a good sign.
They're still speaking to us. So.
That's even better. Yeah.
Amazingly. Yeah. But yeah, the more throughout the 2000s, and we might set up a Ceilidh band, and so we ended up playing Ceilidhs like once, twice a week.
Oh wow! Okay,
and there's been lots of Ceilidhs and all over Scotland and abroad, and so that was great fun. We had a blast doing that, and that's really good. It was good practice because doing Ceilidhs, it's a discipline. Playing for dancing, and it's really good for your timing. You have to stick to the time, and so I cut my teeth really. I think back in the first few Ceilidhs we did, I think, oh my goodness. So we had no idea what we're doing, but we learned.
Yeah.
And I had great fun doing it. So
yeah. No, it is. It's a great discipline builder, but also a great technique builder as well, because you have to have the capacity to blow the flute for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. Although playing in sessions and playing in Ceilidhs, is not great for your technique per se. It's because you're having fun and blasting out, but in terms of improvement of your own in flute playing, in terms of your embouchure, in terms of playing, you have to do the hard yards on your own. Yeah.
And how did you go about doing that then?
I was always kind of interested in the music and interested in playing and just slightly nerdy. I wear a nerdy geeky jacket, and I enjoy the practice. I enjoy the technical challenges of learning how to play things that are difficult. And for a long time people were saying that Scottish music wasn't really you don't really play Scottish music on a flute because it wasn't particularly suited to it. So that was I always thought, oh, let's have a go. Let's have a go. And can I learn how to play Scottish music on the flute to make it work? Yeah, particularly the more angular Scottish tunes, because if you use an Irish style of playing, there's challenges that you face playing Scottish tunes, let's just phase and pipe marches, where you kind of need to do a bit of articulation, or you have to come up with a solution to be able to play. And particularly when I moved to where I live now, just online, playing with lots of fiddlers in the Dunkeld area, learning from fiddlers really, and how do I play the flute so it's more like the sound that fiddlers make.
Okay.
Using utterly, obviously different techniques, but trying to emulate the sounds of a fiddle. So that's been a kind of and still is an ongoing challenge, and and that's kind of fun.
Yeah, but interesting that again you're doing that, but from the basis of having been steeped in the dance side of things, from playing for dancing, because to my mind a lot of the music is coming from the dance for dancing. Yeah. So it's important that those and I think in terms of the structures and the way the tunes sound, you're probably learning it from fiddlers who unconsciously learned it, because the fiddle wasn't just the main instrument. It wasn't always the main instrument in Scotland. Flutes were there in the past.
Yeah. Although fiddles have been the main instrument
for a long time.
They were pipes and fiddles have always been instrument, and even in the heyday of Scottish flute, I'm not sure they were ever surpassing the pipes of the fiddle in terms of a national instrument.
Yeah.
But then there's other traditions too. I was mentioning the Gaelic song in press. There's also the dance band tradition, but also I've enjoyed finding the Scottish, the lute tradition.
Yeah.
Although it's not a tradition, but the lute music that was composed at the beginning, or wasn't necessarily composed at the beginning of the 17th century, but it was first written down in the beginning of the 17th century. And have you ever come across Rob McKillop, who plays lute and guitar?
Yes.
Who's an absolutely beautiful player.
I've never met him, but I've come across. Yeah,
he's got I think the Scottish Lute Project, where he's recording all the lute music that's in. I think there's 5 manuscript books to date from that period, just after the Union of Crowns, the Balcarres manuscript and the Stralach manuscript, and in there's just lovely tunes that don't sound like Scottish traditional music that we would.
No, but from maybe even earlier tradition.
Oh yeah, definitely. And they've got that kind of slight medieval, but they're Scottish as well. And you go, oh, that's definitely Scottish, but it's not like that latest stuff. And they're lovely in the flute. They're really lovely in the flute.
Okay.
So that's been a lovely wee thing to explore as well.
Yeah. So we're touching on an area here that we covered in another video, which hopefully you'll have watched, but with Munro and his other role as a researcher. Do you want to have a quick flavour of that? We don't want to repeat what came in the other interview, but it's just purely giving rein to my nerdy geeky side, and I started to do some, from my own interest, researching traditional music, but not just the traditional music, the stories behind the traditional music and the folklore, particularly relating to place, because I was interested in looking at Perthshire's traditions. Yeah, and that was that's been hugely rewarding. And that's where I've come across all the Gaelic songs and the Carsack and the lute music, and as well as the fiddle tradition, because Perthshire is just got an enormous number of fiddle tunes. And Neil Gow, obviously, and his family, Nathaniel Gow and John Gow, and Dunkeld. But all around there's been lots of other musicians as well from the Perthshire area, and a lot of them in that golden age of fiddling from 1760 or onwards to 1820. They were all producing collections of fiddle music, and there are literally thousands. Thousands of Perthshire fiddle tunes, and they're all dedicated to their patrons, the wealthy, and as musicians have been doing for centuries.
Well, actually, have they been doing for centuries? Not really. There was a smattering, but if you look at the old collections, the
I'm thinking more European, but yes.
Pre-1750, most of the tunes, in fact, very few of the tunes in those collections are named after people.
Okay.
Almost,
I'm thinking in terms of the sort of bigger houses of Europe where they could afford to have a musician in residence, and of course then they would write stuff for the...
Well, if you're paying them.
Yes, exactly.
But if this money, I think a lot of this is folk music.
Yes.
There's a few early Perthshire manuscripts, the Macfarlane manuscript, and the one that was written for the what's now owned by the Drummond Castle, those, looking through the music there, you'll recognise a lot of the tunes, and none of them are dedicated to individuals. They're all tunes that a working fiddler who's playing for dances would be playing. So it's nice because they're very early versions of tunes that we would recognise, just now. Yeah. You with the crooked horn. That's actually a Gaelic. It's got a Gaelic title, but this tune is, is obviously nearly exactly the same. It just has evolved slightly over the centuries that followed it. But it's a really, really rich resource if you care to. And I'm fortunate in that the 7th Duke of Atholl, his eldest daughter, Lady Dorothea, she married a captain in the army, so she became Lady Dorothea Ruggles Bryce. She collected traditional music all her life, and then she then donated it towards the end of her life to the public library in Perth. So they still hold the Atholl collection.
Yes, and the full Atholl collection, not the book that we come to know and love, but
and that has 14,000 tunes in it. So
a bit more than the Atholl collection book.
Yes. So that's a fantastic resource. It's an amazing resource. And all the old manuscripts and tune books dating back. And you can go in there and borrow them. And not take them out.
Yes.
Consult them. And that's a huge resource. So that's just a few miles down the road from me. So that's really handy.
Brilliant. So one thing I was listening to your chat with Dougie Pincock yesterday, and I was thinking, how does that compare? I know it's probably much earlier, but how does it compare with like the Greg Duncan song collection from the Northeast? Because Greg Duncan went out and collected songs that people were still singing, and their collection sits with Aberdeen University, but it was produced as a 8 or 9 volume tomes of songs and variations of songs. Is that a comparable thing, or is this something?
No, because when was that collected?
It would have been the
late Victorian.
Yes,
mid-late Victorian. Because in the mid-late Victorian period, the Celtic Twilight period, sometimes gets called, a lot of gentlemen collectors would go out and collect not just songs or fiddle tunes, but also folklore, tales.
Right, yes, okay.
And almost all over Scotland people were doing this in their own area. So obviously in Aberdeenshire, the Greg collection, or his publications, but elsewhere in Perthshire, Lady Dorothea's youngest sister, Lady Evelyn, she was doing that for folklore and tales and stories, but also songs, Gaelic songs. She was a Gaelic speaker, and also, and that's just that she left that. Oh, she's got a rather tragic story, Lady Evelyn, because she collected it for a year. When she was 19, she went round to her father's estate and recorded very meticulously. Wrote down in Gaelic all the stories and the poems and the songs that people were reciting, and then wrote them up, and who she was very meticulous, who donated it, whereabouts did they live, what age were they, what did their parents do. So she was really ahead of her time, but her mother, Lady Moncrief, she didn't approve of her daughter going around getting stories from old men and women in her estate, when she should be in their London house being a debutante and being introduced to society. Right. So after a year and a half, they took her away forcibly. Wow. To Switzerland. Oh gosh. To break her connection with place. And she only returned to Scotland in the last months of her life. Wow. She spent the rest of her life as an exile, but she left money to have the books published. So she still, it didn't actually break her in that sense. No, because she knew what she had was precious. And all the notebooks. And they, and those notebooks were, she left money for her family to publish them. The family never did. But in 2010 they gave the books to the School of Scottish Studies, and the School of Scottish Studies published her all her work that she did along with translations, and it's an absolute treasure trove of beautiful things. Stories, and that's why, although I play the flute, I'm drawn to all these things as well as because they're stories. It's all, to me, it's all interwoven with place and story and song. And
because your research is really, and recent research has been to do with stories, tunes, songs from a place, specific places. And then going kind of deep diving into that.
And you can deep dive into small an area as you want. In Lady Evelyn's book, there's a lovely Gallic Grace from a place called Nappy. Nappy's a little ruined farm, small holding, high up in the hills above Blair Athol, just to the south of Blair Athol. And so it's a Gallic Grace, and it says, "Dear Lord, Son of our Creator, keep prices low, make our fields produce good crops, and bring peace to our neighbours. Bless Kirsty and the wee ones, and the yellow hen and our chicks. I have no desire for the riches of the world, only to live here, and to have potatoes from Dalachun, water from Eshingal, and to live here in Dalnacabig, peace, forever and ever."
Wow.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful because it's from that wee place in the Dalachun, the round field is next to the house, and Eshingal is the clear silver wee waterfall where they collected water, and that's still there. You can see in the map where all these things were, and that's rooted to that place. Oh, wow! And that big, these little hillock, and like same as Knapdale, and there's a Bronze Age burial mound on top of the hill that overlooks up and down what is A9 in the glen. You think, oh, that is a beautiful place to have been buried if you were in the Bronze Age.
And you can imagine from that grace all those years back to the Bronze Age, people living in that spot. And in reality, all they ever wanted probably was what was said in that grace. But it summed up that. It's just a lovely wee precious thing. But
then so I started looking at that wee place and going, oh, and it overlooks Killiecrankie. Place. So if you'd stood on top of the Nappig, on top of the Sheehan burial mound, you would have been able to watch the battle taking place just below you to your left. And then I did some research into Clarsach music. And Nappig was on the estate of Lude, and the Robertsons of Lude had the Lude house, which was a quarter of a mile away from Nappig. And in the church registers, the births and marriages and whatnot, there's the person who lives at Nappig on Dochan Lealash, which is at the adjacent wee farm, was the Clarser to the Robertsons of Lude. He was the Clarsach player for them. And that, I thought, well, wow, within like half a field, that's where the Clarser lived. This lovely grace. And then researching more, I found that the music that was played at the Robertsons of Lude House was played on what they call the Queen Mary Harp, which is in the National Museum in the foyer, in fact, of the new bit of the National Museum in Edinburgh, in the downstairs area. And very kindly, one of the music collectors and music publishers at the end of the 19th century, end of the early 1800s or so, he collected the tunes from a Robertson, a relation that he'd heard when he was young, played on the Robertson harp.
Oh wow!
Wow! And so there's 16 harp tunes that are just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I just like to think, those tunes would have been played by the Clarser in his wee house, just at Nappig there, under the house. So that kind of roots, you have, the poem and that history and the Killiecrankie and the mount and the allied also to the music collected by the Bowies of Perth, and just lovely Clarsach music that, Clarsach players play it, but it's not part of the tradition that most traditional musicians would access. Not the ones that you and I would play within a pub on a night. But they're beautiful, beautiful melodies that are predate the golden age of fiddling. They sound and feel, they've got the feel of tunes from the 16th, 17th century, just rather like the lute music.
It's
all part of our tradition, and it's just hefty to that place.
Well, it's kind of bringing, like, if the printed sheet of music is two-dimensional and the playing it is three-dimensional, but this is the history wrapped in with all of that, and it's kind of almost 4 dimensions.
Through time.
Through time. But so often we will learn a tune from the page or from somebody else, and we enjoy playing that tune because of the tune. But then you've got this whole other experience enveloping it. To say, well, and you've been there in that field, looking down, Killiecrankie, and remembering that grace. So that's quite remarkable.
It's a lovely thing.
So moving that forward slightly, how do you bring your music to bear on that? Do you use that whole experiential piece in your music?
I'm very much influenced by it.
Well, I can see it in your eyes.
You can see that, but it's a professional level. That's part of when I'm playing music. But increasingly, it's actually making those links in other ways, not just playing the music, but working with other organisations who wanted to do that for their specific area, their specific how can we look at our cultural heritage of this place to include music? And that's I've kind of gone out my way to make that happen slightly, partly because I got annoyed by cultural organisations doing videos and social media and films and everything while they were using background music of The Hobbit and Highland Cathedral played in panpipes. You just go, but you're surrounded by all this traditional music that is deeply rooted in the place you're describing, and you're using the theme tune for Braveheart played on uilleann pipes. I despaired, so I kind of went out there and went, right, I need to. Was
Highland Cathedral not written by a German as well?
It doesn't really matter.
Which adds another dimension to that argument.
Well, I don't know.
But you're right. Yeah, there's a sort of, it's not a misappropriation, but it's a shuffling of the cultural background to something. Yeah.
And I think, and certainly all the organisations I've approached and kind of put my thesis to, they've gone, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, we're missing a trick here, aren't we? And I'm going, yeah, you kind of are, because this is part of our collective cultural heritage. And you as a heritage organisation or environmental organisation, you have got I think you've got a duty to actually keep this alive. But it's not just a duty, it's an opportunity. Because this can connect your audience, your members, the people you're trying to sell, whatever it is that you're doing in terms of your mission statement, connect with them a little bit better. It's a win-win situation in my book.
Yes, but there's a responsibility there then that says, well, they have a responsibility to educate as well in smaller areas. So take an organisation like the National Trust for Scotland. They're probably not, they're thinking at that level for Castle Fraser down the road, but they're not thinking in those terms for, or not promoting it in the same way for the houses and cottages that were on the estate, and then what did they do, and what music did they play down to that level. But they're kind of almost hitting the big picture, trying to get the big picture out there to a mass audience. But there is an opportunity, I agree, there's an absolute opportunity to say, in this place, right down to this music was important in this place.
Yeah. In Castle Fraser, what was the music that was played in the drawing room in the 1800s.
I seem to remember that there's a harp in there, but I can't remember, and that might be one of the other castles.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's interesting for them to kind of ask that question and explore that.
Yeah,
because that makes a richer experience for people visiting.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
And it's part they should. Yeah, my contention is that they should be seeking this out and wanting to know and wanting to explore, because it's wonderfully rich. Music is a great way of people connecting.
Yes,
and
yes, that's a great way of putting it. Yes.
Music affects us all emotionally. Everybody knows the music that they grow up with, the music that was the soundtrack of their lives, in effect. Music, affects us more than any other art form emotionally.
Yes.
So, I think it's a great way of.
Well, it's a physicality to it. It's, a nice piece of art is something, but you don't always get the chance to interact with art. Some arts you do, but less so. But music, it's physically hitting you. Yeah. It's in your ears. It's vibrating bits of you that make it a physical thing.
Yeah, and it plays upon your feelings.
Yes.
Yeah, it evokes feelings.
Well, hopefully.
Well, it could evoke all sorts of feelings in a positive or maybe negative way. I don't know. And that's and I think it comes down to as well. You have to, as a musician, you have to try and play the best that you can within your abilities. Yeah, and strive for excellence, and always be looking to get better, to improve. Yeah. And there's that apocryphal probably story about Yehudi Menuhin being asked why in his 80s he practiced 4 hours a day, and him saying, it's because I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And that's, whether it's true he said that or not, that's what you can have as a musician. You just feel always, that if you put in the effort and work, then you just incrementally get better, not necessarily technically, but your understanding or your interpretation of the music, or how it's phrased, or and as a flute player, just always exploring how to get better.
And so I suppose the first time I was consciously aware of you, other than the 2001 event, was when you taught at Flutefling in Edinburgh 2-3 years ago. And I was struck by your playing then, how I've probably changed my opinion, but I saw it, I heard it and thought it's a very modern way of playing, of interpreting the tunes. How would you describe your playing?
Gosh, nobody's ever said it's modern.
I told you to take you the difficult question.
Although one of the people yesterday that I was teaching said, she said, I thought your Swiss play playing was amazing. She said, there was one bit that when you played, it sounded like ball bearings were being thrown against a wall. I wasn't quite sure how that was a compliment, but I took it as a compliment.
Go for that.
And that I don't necessarily play always in a way which I'm looking to emulate the feeling that fiddles get when they're playing.
Right.
And just like the fiddle tradition in Scotland has a huge range of expressions, whether it's West Coast fiddle or if it's the more classically influenced Northeast style of fiddle playing. You get a whole range. You get that kind of really gritty, rough, almost out of tune, but within that it's got huge amounts of energy and life at one spectrum, and then the mega polished tone and long fiddle arms of the Northeast tradition. Me wanting to, just where this is where my musical preference is towards the gritty end, the ball bearing end of fiddle playing, if you like.
Well, the ball bearings are very smooth, but anyway,
not when they're thrown against the wall.
Well, it depends on the wall.
So, in terms of, is that modern? I don't know.
Well, I think I maybe changed my opinion on what I mean by that. And I think if I was to think it through now, I would say it's a very emotive style of playing. You have digested the tune, imbibed the tune, and you are playing the way you feel about the tune, is how I would say, as opposed to just playing the tune. You play the notes very well, is fine, but it comes across much more when I hear you play.
Yeah, I kind of like when I can just let go, and just and especially particularly in Strathspey. Yeah, Strathspey were meant to be wild things that the church band, because they were
led to dancing,
and perhaps even worse, who knows. But yeah, the a more measured form of playing Strathspey where it's for formal dancing. To me, that wouldn't lead to much licentious behaviour. But the further west you go, the more life the Strathspey have.
Okay.
And then you get to Cape Breton, they are driven.
Right.
They're really driven. Yeah. And that's where although I love the really measured ones as well, the just driven ones, just for wild excess, is fun. Yeah. But then there's also ones that I've been exploring just now that are much more lyrical. They sit in the middle there, like that kind of. Is that a reel? Is it a Strathspey? Is it a rant? What is it? And some of them are just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm currently having great fun exploring those tunes which are more gentler than ball bearing.
But I suppose your research gives you plenty of source material to actually develop up as performance-worthy pieces almost.
Yeah, and that's what I find quite interesting, is that when I'm doing a project for a client or for a particular project, I'm looking for tunes relating to that subject matter, that area, physical location. So the tunes that I find are the tunes that I have to use, because that's what there is. And that's great, because it forces me to play those tunes and find the thing inside that tune that makes it special. And I'm always surprised when I play with my long-term musical collaborator, Neil Bailey, that we find a tune and we play it and we play it and play it, and then we go, actually, that's brilliant. That's an absolutely brilliant tune. And we discover the thing inside it that makes it special. And I think you get to love, you love the whole range of music out there. And it's only very occasionally that we both go, God, that tune's better. Well, I'm not sure we're ever going to play that again. There's very, very few, and I'm not going to identify the ones. Because they deserve to be loved by somebody else.
Somebody else might. Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about that and how if I pick up a collection of tunes, whether it's a new book or whether it's charismatic melodies or whether it's some of the Gibbon books, I think, and I'll be faced with this white and black dots on a white page, and I'm working my way through some tunes, and you think, all right, I'll try the next one. All right, I'll try the next one, but you don't give it time to develop. And I think what I'm picking from you is that because you're focused on a place where there's, by its very nature, a kind of limited set, then you're delving deep into those tunes for the emotion in them, I guess.
And that's been really rewarding, because almost every time you go, oh, these are brilliant. I really like these. So it's like a constant Christmas.
So, and that's kind of where you are now. So what about the future? And are you going to be able to build that into something that gives more people access to it, or do you want to go out and perform these things? Or is that a package of research that you give to somebody else?
It's a bit of both really, but naturally I'm not a performer really. I don't enjoy it. Some people thrive in it and love it. And I'm the guy that's generally quite quiet and quite happy not to lead sets and sessions, and I don't necessarily thrive in it. But I love sharing. I love sharing the stories and the music that I found, because I think it's precious and it's lovely and it's a beautiful thing. And that's what I really enjoy, is the sharing side of things. So the project we were speaking about, I was speaking with Dougie Pincock when we were doing the talk, Glenn Morrison. Afterwards, I was saying, "Oh gosh, I never said this because this is a really important part of it." Okay. And this is going to be a lovely segue because it answers your question. Is that the music that we discovered in Glenn Morrison, the lots of the Gaelic song, but also the fiddle tunes that we gathered in the adjacent area, which the next phase of the project was looking at. Part of that is sharing that with local learners and local children, okay. So that the people who are learning fiddle at Kilcoon Primary School in Fort Augustus and secondary school at Fort Augustus, they're learning local tunes about their area and local Gaelic songs from their area, which is a lovely thing. Mm-hmm. And the report that we produced about Glenn Morrison has instigated an arts project, basically, that is being taken forward just now this year. Excellent. With artists and musicians and outdoor educators and who are walking the drove roads, telling the stories. The music's being played. Artists are doing artworks, all generated by their duchess, their connection to place. Okay. And so that was a really important development and output from it, because local people wanted to do more with this and realise that there's an opportunity to cherish and celebrate their own local culture, and they've got all these resources. Part of the thing was that the reports kind of unearthed all the material, and so that's run and developed, and local stories, and they had a storyteller come in as part of the project, which is brilliant because she didn't come in and tell them the stories. She came in and together she taught them how to tell these stories themselves. Okay. So they're telling the stories. Which is lovely because for instance, they were telling stories on the Loch Ness boat tours. And they go out to Fort Augustus of Loch Ness. On those cruises, and it's 11 and 12-year-olds who are telling visitors about their local culture, and that's really strong.
No, that's good because I think one of the worst things to happen would be that you've unearthed all this, you've created another collection which will sit in somebody's attic for 200 years, and then somebody else will come along and go, "Oh, let's look what this bloke did." Exactly. But that would be sad. But you've found a way to almost make that live in itself. Which is really good.
That's a really lovely positive thing, but it's all being taken forward by local people. It's not you driving it. You're the enabler. Well, I did some of the research which can spark the interest, and and that's because you want local people to run this and to take it on and it to be theirs, and it's their heritage, their history. And all I did was working with Kate and Ranich was help unearth all that heritage and the music and.
But it's what helps make it real.
And it's look. I just love the fact it's local children playing local tunes and local children singing songs that were written 200 years ago from where they are and telling the stories about the place that they come from. That's really rich.
And it will have a life because of that. Yeah, brilliant. Well, perhaps you'd like to give us a demonstration of your playing? You brought a flute with you.
I brought a flute with me. A tune.
A tune, yeah. What would you like to play?
A local Perthshire tune, just from
don't say a local Perthshire tune up here in the middle of Aberdeenshire. Come on, it's a far away Perthshire tune.
It's local to me.
Local to you, yeah.
Up the road from us, Grantley, Miss Stuart Grantley, which is a Strathspey. Gosh, was it written by Neil Guy? I don't think it was, but it's from that era.
Okay, yeah. It'll take people ages to work out that it's not, so you just
But it's got that driving Strathspey thing happening if you choose to play it that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That was brilliant. And a nice little chat. So hopefully that complements the one from yesterday, and we'll get that out at some point.
That's great. Thank you very much for asking.
No, absolutely been a great pleasure. So excellent.